First domino has fallen in the 2025 Coaches Carousel. I am Josh Neighbors. This is the College Countdown on 365 Sports, also Rogue Media Networks as well. Jack Allen will be coming on the show with me tomorrow. He's at Jack Allen TV. I am at Josh Neighbors _. You guys can find this show wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. Like the video, sub to the channel. It's tank top for me today because this room gets really hot and I just worked out. So there you go. Get my water in me. Okay, today's show. So James Franklin is hired by Virginia Tech. The first domino in the 2025 coaching carousel is down. And what do we think about it? So I think this, the first thing, from a news standpoint, this was the direction it was heading the entire time. This was the report the entire time, and it ended up this way. So there were no, people worrying, I'm starting to think this won't happen. The timeline made sense. I think that especially with the Miami game this week, makes a lot of sense. They can bring out James Franklin. They can promote James Franklin. They can say, look, here is our new coach. Ta-da. Hope you all, like him, like what you see, all that kind of stuff. Here he is. So I think timeline-wise, it's great. As far as the hire goes, this is about as good of a hire as you can make for Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech hired somebody off of James Franklin's staff. In order to reach a point of success that Virginia Tech wants, they're looking for like Frank Beamer level success. Well, James Franklin had Frank Beamer level success in the Big Ten Conference at Penn State, despite the fact that he had to deal with, some of the penalties and whatnot that were still left over from the Jerry Sandusky, Joe Paterno scandal and situation. So they were still handling some of those things at the end of the line there at Penn State. They were still dealing, with some of that stuff when he began his tenure there and still took them to incredible heights. Also, from a fit standpoint, like it's a mountain school. It's not too far by. There's a lot of Pittsburgh kids who go to both of these schools that is, in a conference that's somewhat top heavy, that's got a school that's committed to winning. It's going to spend money, that's publicly come out and said they're going to spend money in the way Virginia Tech has. And so I think this makes a lot of sense for James Franklin. Like the thing about me is that I grew up in Richmond. My dad grew up about 20 minutes away from Virginia Tech. I went to Virginia Tech games growing up my entire life. And the one thing about the Hokies is that they would get to a championship game. They would win championship games. They would come up short in championship games. Sounds a lot like James Franklin, does it not? Coming up short in big games. That being said, though, Virginia Tech has not been to those big games in a long time, and they have not been relevant in a long time. So to get that breakthrough, you need to get to the spot first to be in position to get the breakthrough, and Virginia Tech is nowhere near that. James Franklin gives them a shot at getting back to that. Also, this is not a conference that is super difficult to become competitive in very quickly. This conference, I think, is going to have a lot of turnover. Like Virginia is good this year. Virginia's not going to spend the money year in, at least right now it looks like. They're not going to spend the money year in and year out to be that competitive. Nor do I think Tony Elliott's like a good enough coach to like make them that point. But UVA has won a lot of tight games this season, and so they've done a good job this year, but I'm not sure they can carry that over. Georgia Tech looks uniquely good for this season. Pitt's always pretty good. SMU is always going to be up there in that range. Miami looks like they're back, but still, they're not even in the top 4 in the league right now. Duke's up there. Louisville's up there. So there's a lot of access to the top of this league. And Clemson's middling, obviously. Florida State's middling. Both those teams trying to get themselves back 5-5 overall, trying to get themselves back to where they once were at one point in time, but they're not at the top of the league. So Virginia Tech getting towards the top of the league is not out of the question. And I think they got the right coach to do it. Going to be able to pry a lot of that, no pun intended, a lot of that recruiting class at Penn State over. And look, ultimately, like what your idea of will this work or not, I don't know. Nobody knows. Like Tom Fornelli says, I like the hire, seems like a good hire, but I don't always know how the hire is going to go. I think that's the case here is that, look, this hire looks very good. It looks like a very, very good hire. We've got no idea for sure, though, if this is going to be the home run hire that a lot of us think it is going to, or if you speculate that it's going to be a home run hire. There's no way to tell for sure. But I think that Virginia Tech did a very good job in securing a coach that they can have a lot of confidence in. They can be very excited about. It's going to get the fans very excited about going to games. It's going to sell tickets It's going to get recruits excited. It's the right shot in the arm. They could not have hoped for anything better. And I think it's a good piece of business the way that Tech went through this season. And look, they're going to be able to introduce him at the Miami game. That's very, very exciting. I don't know if this is going to deter other schools from joining the fray, but like Virginia Tech, Arkansas talked to him. The other schools talked to him, but it was Tech all the way. And I think Tech had to make a certain commitment the entire time to make sure they could secure a James Franklin, right? Like you have to make sure that you let the guy know that you're super serious about the football program, if he's going to end up coming to your school. And so I think they made that pretty clear. And I know that folks think other jobs are better jobs. As somebody who lived in Virginia and works in Arkansas and has covered sports my entire life, Virginia Tech's a better job right now because both programs are down, but like Tech's committed to spending money, and in your way in the SEC, when you spend money, are a lot of good schools. Like you think about a year in and year out, like, I always use Missouri as an example. Missouri spent cash and really done a great job identifying talent. They've gotten super close to breaking through, but just have not gotten all the way there to the college ball playoff. Ole Miss, same way. They're going to break through this year, it appears, and get to that CFP. But they're on the precipice, and finally did break through. It looks like they're going to break through here in 2025. It's a more of an uphill climb, right? I mean, you think about what Vanderbilt's doing. Vanderbilt right now, I mean, if you think about them trying to get in the playoff, like they've got a good angle at getting into the playoff with the 8-2 record they have right now and games remaining against Kentucky and then also at Tennessee the final week of the year. But, this is a 2-year process, and it's not going to guarantee they get in. And so the continued commitment that it requires is something that's obviously very, very important. And, we talked about Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin and whatnot yesterday. Like, that's not the next domino to fall, because I don't know if we're going to have that one. But everybody else everyone's going after is currently coaching places. So, this Virginia Tech hire to me is like a piece of business that almost gets tucked away. If anybody think this really puts the wheels turning on the coaching cycle, it doesn't. I don't think it turns things up, because some candidates are guys who are vying for spots, not just in conference championship games, but also in college football playoffs. So, you got Bob Chesney, obviously, at James Madison. You've got Morris at North Texas. You've got in the American Conference, also John Summerall at Tulane. You've got Ryan Silverfield at Memphis. You've got Alex Galosh over at South Florida. Jeff Traylor, they're not in the hunt anymore, but like at UTSA, I'd still consider him. I think he's a very good coach. But those guys are all vying for spots. Kenny Dillingham's team is 5-2, outside shot of getting in. And then also, I haven't heard Kalani Sitake mentioned for other jobs, but somebody wanted him in. He's an awesome coach. I think they'd be smart to hire him. Matt Campbell's group is out of it, but I'd still hire Matt Campbell in a heartbeat if somebody wants to do it. So, a lot of these guys that we're talking about as candidates for jobs are still coaching teams that are in hunts for spots in the playoff and, also in conference titles and stuff. So I don't think this hire necessarily moves along the process. And also it's consistent with the reporting. So all your pipe dream BS and stuff, send that stuff away. This was the job that we thought that James Franklin would take. It's the job that he ultimately takes. And I'm not too surprised that he ultimately took said job. All right. I want to mention Sam Leavitt when we come back, because the quarterback at Arizona State, it sounds like he might not be returning to Arizona State.
One play can change a season. One upset can silence a stadium. With every snap, the stakes get higher, and no one brings you closer to the action than DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook for live betting. From live betting to odds, boosts, and so much more, DraftKings Sportsbook has everything you need to stay in the action from kickoff to the final whistle. New customers, this one is for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get paid out $300 in bonus bets instantly. Own every Saturday with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code NEIGHBORS. That's code NEIGHBORS to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 8887-897777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Fees may apply in Illinois, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
Also, I have to mention, along with the James Franklin things and news, his buyout of Virginia Tech is renegotiated. So it was initially $49 million. It's a $9 million settlement now, Penn State. So it sounds like they're going to give him $9 million just up front, and the rest is going to be offset from Virginia Tech. So, that kind of settles things. Actually, a pretty good piece of business by Penn State. I think the initial shock was there. And I think also when you fired Franklin, I mean, you could have figured pretty well like that he was going to coach somewhere else, but also it is a risk if he decides to not go and do that. Right. So if he says, you know what, think I'm not going to coach, just take a year, assess the field and whatnot. I mean, like you still might have to pay him for that situation as well. It's something that we're going to see maybe play out with LSU and Ole Miss. So that's something there that you have to consider about this. But good piece of business it ends up being good piece of business for Penn State. Still not sure what they're going to do. Pretty wide net they're casting, it sounds like. But speaking of reporting that we've seen, Sam Leavitt, Arizona State. Let's read from Steve Wiltfong over at On3 Sports. Headline here is Arizona State quarterback Sam Leavitt's return to program next season is quote-unquote doubtful. Wiltfong and Pete Nakos have learned that the camp of Arizona State quarterback Sam Leavitt is actively shopping the talented passer, quote, at a high level. To other programs, the plan of entering the transfer portal when it opens on January 2. On3 is hearing that Leavitt's return to ASU for a third year is quote-unquote doubtful. Leavitt is represented by his brother Dallin through CAA. He told Nakos a final decision has not been made. So he's not totally sure about all of that. Coming to the season, Leavitt was one of college football's top recruiting quarterbacks. He threw 24 touchdowns and 6 INTs last year. But I will say this year, 10 touchdown passes, 10 rushing touchdowns. A foot injury has him sidelined for the rest of the year. Leavitt went to Michigan State. He left, and then he has got now at ASU with Kenny Dillingham, who's obviously making that big push. The first thing about this is I don't think Sam Leavitt wanting to leave is any indication that Kenny Dillingham wants to leave. We did see Kenny Dillingham's passionate plea to the fans to invest more in the program. I appreciate that from Kenny Dillingham. I see what he's trying to do. I really am a big believer in him and what he is trying to do. But I think that, he's a guy who's obviously been very, very transparent. And so I think with that transparency, he's not pulling any punches here. I think he wants to be back at ASU. The one thing about it is this, like the idea of this, yeah, man, I would love to see Sam Leavitt at ASU for all 4 years. That is something that interests me very much. And, the reality of it though is that he's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 games played this year out of the 10 that they have played. Injuries have kept him out since the 25th. And I think he also might have missed 1 game there on the in-between, I think. Actually, that would make sense timeline-wise. So he's missed a game there in between, right? What I'd like to say is that Sam Leavitt is a pro prospect. I expect him to be drafted in the future. I think that is pretty safe to assume after what we saw. Michigan State didn't play very much, but we saw, the size-wise, he's a good player, can move, he's got that rushing ability. So I think he's got all these tools that you would really like, at the next level. But, I mean, he's making money in college. And the thing about it is that I think he's got a very good opportunity. Very good opportunity to make as much money as possible. Like, I think really his goal here is to make as much money as possible. And what you're seeing because he's injured right now is that this is a smart decision. Do we all have to love it? No. But is it like, if he was my son, I'd be like, man, Sam, we're already seeing with your injury, and you never know the situation as well, but you got a chance here next year because of how well you played and because of what the transfer quarterback market is going to be defined, I think, sometimes by what teams are willing to pay. I mean, what's it worth for some of these schools to go out and get a heavy hitter at quarterback? Like, Auburn is a great example. Auburn, to me, this year was a quarterback away from being a potentially phenomenal football team. I mean, the defense was so good all year long. The quarterback play was so terrible all year long, as was last few years. But, it is that difference maker, right? Like, it is. You see Missouri, not able to finish a game against Vanderbilt's quarterback play wasn't very good. It's deciding a lot of these games. Obviously, I think the great defenses that we see still mean a lot. But like Marcel Reed being able to turn it on late was a big difference maker. Having a guy like that is a huge difference maker. That's why quarterbacks, tackles, and pass rushers are the ones that drafted, because like those are the difference making positions. And so he's got a chance to make a lot of money in the transfer portal and go to a different school and get good coaching and still have the same outcome. And so I think that for Sam Leavitt, like, the opportunities will go up if he goes to a big name school. It's going to pay him a lot of money. And I can't fault a kid for doing that when, you see like the way the injuries work, like nothing's guaranteed for guys. Joe Burrow, generationally wealthy, sure. But I mean, he's been banged up so much, what's going to happen? Like, with his career and whatnot, you see it all the time in sports, but RG3, good example of this. And so because of the injuries, I don't think we should fault Sam Leavitt at all for this. I think because the state of, nature of football, we shouldn't fault him at all. If these guys were employees and they had contracts they had to stick to, like actually employed people do, then we would not be complaining about this at all. So sorry, I'm reading other information people are sending me. So I think it's pretty fair to say that, yeah, like this is kind of upsetting. Like ASU is going to pay for this, and that's not the way we like it to be. But Sam Leavitt, like, if he wants to start a family and make as much money as possible off football, this is a financially prudent decision, and I don't think anybody's going to say this kid's, crappy leader or whatever because he's leaving Kenny Dillingham. I mean, he could go somewhere and play for a really good offensive coordinator and get prepared for the NFL and play in a lot of big games, have a chance to win a national championship and make good money in a way that he wasn't able to at ASU. And I don't think we as football fans should fault him for chasing the bag, but also more opportunity, man. That's the whole point of life, is like to move up in your field and your job. And you don't get to play football at 35, 40, and 50 usually. Definitely play at 50, but you don't get to play it at those points. And so that's what we have to understand, is these guys now have the opportunity to become significantly wealthy in a way that it was not there before, and also that's not going to be there for hopefully a majority of their lives. I mean, once you're able to start making money in high school, I mean, how long the clock starts running. Like, most black guys don't make it in college football to the pros, and most of those guys don't make it into their 30s. It's just a reality of it. It's just a reality of how violent the sport is. So shouldn't fault the kid, in my opinion, is what I'm trying to say about this situation. I think it's fair to say. All right, Jack Allen tomorrow. We'll have a lot of the coaching searches going on and more. The playoff picture as well. Like the video, sub to the channel, follow us on Twitter at @CCPodcastJN, at @JoshNeighbors_. He is at Jack Allen TV. If you want to follow him, like, sub, comment. See y'all mañana.